Everybody, I'm Stacy with Stacy's Organizing and Decorating for Life, or stacyforlife.com. I'm here to help you organize your thoughts and decorate your perspectives. Last week we talked about our relationship with ourselves and how having that relationship with ourselves and loving ourselves sets up the precedence for our relationships with everyone else, because we teach people how to treat us. So I told you that this week we would talk about our relationships with others as well as boundaries. So if you like that that's our topic, please hit the like and subscribe button below. Before we get started on that, I would like to ask you just a few questions so that we have some clarity as we go forward. So those questions are you feeling like you're the person who puts in all the work in your work and relationships? Everybody relies on you, and the thing is that you're doing everything for everybody, but then when you need help, nobody's there. And then also, you feel like your relationships are one-sided when this is happening. And we feel like we're always waiting around for other people and their decisions and what they're going to do. We also think that, do you always feel like you're doing what other people want to do? And do you feel like you're worried about what other people think, and that you even so far as obsess about those things? Do you second guess yourself? You don't trust yourself and you don't trust others. And then do you minimize your accomplishments? And even when you get compliments, they feel awkward, and you sometimes even want to cry because you just don't feel good enough. Do you try to fix people and rescue people and neglect yourself in the process? This is part of when you're doing stuff for others, and they never are doing stuff for you. And all of this. This is part of how you're setting yourself up that way. And it's that second guessing, and people get used to that and they rely on that. And so they learn to manipulate that. So this all becomes a game of manipulation, because guess what? You're part of that manipulation too. This becomes a game. It's a triangle. Becomes a game because what we do is we fear of being intimate with people. So sometimes people are afraid to share their desires, and what they want, because they're afraid of rejection. Also, when you're fixing people, when you know what's better for other people and you're helping them and offering advice without them even asking, then you're taking it upon yourself that you're manipulating that, because we want to feel needed as codependents, hence that doormat thing. When she told me I was a doormat, this is the thing. When we set ourselves up to be a doormat and be needed like that, we're the doormat. They're walking on us, dusting their feet off, but we will get up and ring the doorbell and beg them to come back out and dust their feet off one more time. This is the crazy thing. So we have to break this cycle. Because it is a manipulation. When we keep people pleasing and saying yes to everything, we're trying to make sure they like us, damn it. And we don't have to do that. People will still like you even when you say no, as long as you say no with manners and love, But the thing is that we have to learn to love ourselves first. So we don't just wake up one day and say, oh, it's better. We also seek validation as a codependent, thinking everything is about us. We need everybody to approve of us. And so we're doing everything, not realizing that if we do everything, we're not letting other people have responsibility or opportunity to do things for themselves, or to let other people do things to, receive esteem. So as a humane society, we have to allow everybody to have a turn to do stuff. We're all gifted with our own unique gifts. One person can't be trying to do everything, because then you're spread too thin. Hence, when people ask you to do something and you're afraid to say no. See, because no is just no. It's just a word. But we're all afraid of rejection as codependents. So we don't want to hear the word no, because we're afraid that's going to hurt somebody's feelings. So we really give people a list of what all we have to do if we're trying to avoid doing something, or if we just want to share with people how important we are. That false esteem, so because we need to be needed to have that esteem. So it's about getting healthy and changing our esteem. So like I said, in 2002, I was in therapy and divorced, and in therapy, she instructed me not to have a relationship for 12 months. She also instructed me, because I didn't want to project these things onto my kids, and I did want to protect my kids, and I didn't want my kids to go through the things I went through as a child. So was very important for me to learn how to get healthy. I wouldn't have done it just for myself, but so she told me to go to CODA, this therapist, and I really didn't want to go to CODA. I had gone to ACA in my using days because it was easier for me to be a victim of, an adult child of an alcoholic than to actually take responsibility for myself and my behaviors. Although I had a taste of taking care of myself in my own, being responsible for myself through having worked the steps on my addiction. And I thought when I worked myself on the steps on my addiction that I would automatically know how to have relationships. But the thing was I wouldn't know a healthy relationship if it slapped me on the face, because I didn't have experience with healthy relationships, and I would not have experience with healthy relationships if I didn't do the healing, because I would continue to project these relationships, the pain, the trauma onto the current relationships until I healed that. See, a lot of times people feel like they're empathetic when they just haven't healed the pain. So it's really codependent because they're trying to heal the pain through helping others, but they can't heal the pain through helping others. See, we want to think that is codependence, but we have to heal the pain by going within ourselves and feeling our own pain. We can't heal our pain from feeling other people's pain. See, that's what real empathy is about, is that you can acknowledge other people's pain. And you can have, sympathy and feelings for their pain, but you're not taking their pain on. A codependent will take another person's pain on and chew on it and mull on it and fix it and obsess about it and everything else. An empath doesn't do that. They're just able to have feelings of compassion, and understand that, that this person is feeling this way, but it's not taking the pain on, you see. So 2002, I go into CODA finally, and I get a sponsor, and I get this book. I work the steps in this book, and since 2002, I've had the opportunity to work the steps out of the book with many other women. And, there's men coming into it now, too, realizing the codependency. See, because a lot of things have shifted. When we weren't taught to communicate, I'm hoping that with the new world, as I've hinted at before, that kids will learn what their feelings are. Because when we were young, our parents were taught that kids were seen and not heard. So kids didn't get to learn that their feelings were valid. So hence they grew up into adults that felt like their feelings weren't valid. So they sought out some of the things that I put on that list, some of the things that, not I put on the list, that they're just general traits, really, of codependency. So some people adapt that way. They have to heal from those things that weren't heard as a child and heal that inner child. This book also has a glossary in the back, as well as different resources for you to seek out help. Because in that healing, there's there's a healing for incest, there's healing for sex abuse, there's healing for the people like Al-Anon who deal with people with alcoholics, there's healing, there are all kinds of groups, and you're healing in these groups. There's ACA, like I said before, the Adult Children of Alcoholics. There is Co-Anon, Al-Anon, CODA, of course, COSA, Codependence of Sex Addicts, Emotions Anonymous, Families Anonymous. There is Gam-Anon, there's Incest Survivors Anonymous, there's Recovering Couples Anonymous, all kinds of things. Survivors of Incest Anonymous, they have everything. There's the typical Gamblers Anonymous, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, there's Sexaholics Anonymous, of course, there is Overeaters Anonymous. There's all kinds of anonymous, so you can find them if you can get this book. If there's resources, like I said, in the back of this book, or you can go online. Simple as that nowadays. So when we talk about this self-love, and I suggested last week, we used to look for self-love, self-care outside in, because in 2019, we thought that self-love was working out in the gym, taking care of our body. We thought that self-love was taking care of our outside and making sure our hair and nails looked nice. We thought that self-love was getting a massage, and then in 2020, we weren't able to do some of those things. Some of those things are now opening back up, but we weren't able to do this. So and some people still are not able to do this because of the financial difficulties that are now here. So what we look at is underneath, when I was doing the research and watching Melody Beattie, so a lot of times they say that underneath the addiction lies the codependence. And then underneath the codependence lies grief. See, and there's 500 different types of grief. And we're going through a grief period even right now from 2019 to 2020 of what the world was like and what the world's, like now. So in all this uncertainty. With grief, what we feel is fear and anger and guilt and shame and just all kinds of things, guilt, shame, and blame, and so when we're looking at our codependency and we're looking at our healing, peeling that other layer, we're looking at that guilt, shame, and blame and the fears and everything else and exposing those. And that's when they say, like, peeling the onion and peeling layers is like when you peel an onion, you're crying. And so healing will make you cry, but crying won't kill you. But we're definitely afraid. Some people are definitely afraid of looking at this stuff like it will kill us, and it won't. And this is the thing, is I'll share with you in the end how our projector can work if we choose to use our projector that way. So as I said, this has a glossary right here. So I'm going to read to you the definition in here in this glossary. Boundaries. Our boundaries are our limits. How far we go with others, how far we allow them to go with us. We can define boundaries only for ourselves. Our boundaries define what we allow to come into our lives. We are seeking to allow less pain, chaos, abuse, negative energy into our lives, and we're making room for positive experiences. See, so again, that's where I talk about the polarities. Some of the behavior that goes along with the codependence is because we are afraid of conflict and confrontation. So that's, part of the boundaries is we don't want to set boundaries because we're afraid that that if we say no, that people are going to be upset with us. So, and they're going to feel rejected. There's all kinds of things that we make up in our head that they're going to feel rejected, and we don't like to feel rejected. So the conflict and confrontation, but we also have to look at passive-aggressive behavior with the conflict and confrontation. Because a lot of the times when we get into the blame, shame, guilt, and stuff, what happens in passive-aggressive behavior? It's worse than aggressive behavior when somebody's just being nasty. Passive-aggressive behavior is indicative that somebody trusts you, and then what happens is say that you do, the definition to me, they don't have it in this book, I was surprised. The definition to me of passive-aggressive behavior is when you purposely do something to hurt somebody else because you feel like they hurt you out of spite. Say that if you're with a partner and that partner is cheated or what have you with somebody else, or you think that they have, and you go and cheat with somebody else to get even with them, and then they ask you, did you sleep with this person? And you're like, oh, no. Or then if you're feeling a low self-esteem and you start sharing somebody else's story with somebody else to build your esteem because you have the inside scoop, and so you're putting them down to lift yourself up, to esteem yourself, and then they ask you, did you share this? That again is a passive-aggressive behavior because that probably stemmed from some kind of jealousy or, like I said, to esteem yourself. But, when you do something and it's going to hurt somebody and then you can't own it, you're afraid of that conflict and confrontation, it really shouldn't be done if you can't own it. So it's all about this healing process is about owning our own stuff. So once we can go through the healing process and own our own stuff and then not behave on that, not react and behave on that stuff again, then we are, healing and adults. So I'm going to read to you what boundaries are and are not. Boundaries are not a discipline. It's not a punishment. That's not the way boundaries are supposed to be used. Boundaries are to be set with love. So we have to love ourselves. That is an action of self-love, is to set boundaries, because we are having confidence and trusting other people with our feelings, and trusting ourselves with our feelings, and then honoring ourselves and others by not trying to manipulate them and make them like us by thinking that we're something else, but being real, because people are attracted to people that are confident and real, and if you're less than confident and real, they know, and that's when they walk all over you. And then not setting boundaries can lead to enabling. Enabling is when you're doing for adults what they could be doing for themselves. And enmeshment. Enmeshment is when you don't know yourself from another person, that you have yourself all tangled up, that their feelings are your feelings and thoughts. So when your therapist asks you, what are you thinking and how are you feeling? And you say, I don't know, your therapist knows you're enmeshed, because your therapist knows, or whoever knows, that you're getting your feelings off of another person, that you don't feel your feelings for yourself. So when you have boundaries, you have the conversation, keeping the ball in your court, being the I. So you say that, say that if you're in a relationship with somebody and they are not monogamous, like, the other situation scenario, say they're not monogamous, rather than getting even and stuff in an adult relationship, what you say is, I really wanted to be in a monogamous relationship. Are you able to be in a monogamous relationship? If they say yes, great, you can work on it and still be in a monogamous relationship. If that's, if that's what you want, that could be a deal breaker for some people. If they say, no, I can't be in a monogamous relationship, then we go on to another part, that what the boundaries say is they're to be clear and concise and not a threat, but ready when you're, but ready to put the consequence in place. So it's a consequence is when you are honoring yourself, sometimes you have to have consequences and say that, well, look, it's really important to me. And so if you're not going to be, monogamous, then I'm afraid that we can't be in this relationship anymore. And then stick by it. Don't go beating on the door again. Boundaries are not to control. That's more in alignment with narcissism. Acknowledging our feelings matter, and sharing our vulnerability so we can honor ourselves and others. So you have to understand that, we want to be in transparent and open relationships to where we're able to communicate with each other. And if we can't do that, then we have a problem, because trust is very important. See, because in the past we didn't trust ourselves, we second-guessed ourselves. And a lot of that started like with that relationship when we first started dating and teaching others how to treat us. See, when we started rationalizing and justifying in the first place, we set ourselves up to not be taken seriously. So we have to be taken seriously with these boundaries. And it's not to be shouted boundaries. They're to be boundaries set with love, to where we learn to communicate and talk with each other, and we have to process this stuff. One of the things about teaching people how to treat us is, I love Lisa Nichols, as we all know, and her grandma had another wise saying, and it said that to make your yeses more powerful, you have to get comfortable with your no's to be able to say no. So again, I'm going to say that again. To make your yeses be more powerful, you have to be comfortable saying no. Because people don't appreciate your yeses. If you're saying yes all the time, they will take advantage of you and trot on you. But when you can say no and be comfortable with your no's, then people appreciate your yeses more. And this is by Blanche Houston. That's Lisa Nichols' grandma. And she made sure you give her grandma the credit for this and not her. Her grandma was a very wise lady. So I'm going to explain to you how I came up with the process, and then I'll close with one more thing, a quote from somebody else. I want you to know that I do appreciate your time, and that's another way of setting boundaries, that when, like I said, when you feel like you're always waiting on somebody, to be able to say to people is, look, my time is valuable. And, if you're going to be like long and everything, you need to let me know so I can make a choice of whether I have time to do this or not. And, if you're not willing to sit in the car and wait, or sit wherever and wait for a long time, you need to let them know, look, I can't sit and wait. So if you need somebody to sit and wait, then, and they'll still like you. See, this is the thing, is a lot of people fear people won't like you, but they actually respect you more when you can set loving boundaries and honor yourself in them, and so you're not getting into resentment, because people can feel when you're resenting them. So the thing is fear lies underneath everything. Fear has been said to be the opposite emotion of love, and people fear what they don't know. But sometimes people fear what they know too from the past. People fear what they don't know in the future. Fear is pretty common. Fear is projecting what you think might happen and something in the future. So projecting is like creating. And the thing is to develop, because if you're projecting like a film, you're going to develop it. So to develop it, you have to walk through the pain. You have to walk through your story. Your story is powerful. You are more powerful than you think that you are. And when you walk through the story and you start developing this, you start getting colors. You start to, it's like a film. When you first see the film, you don't see anything. That's how we are when we're codependent, is, you don't see anything because we don't know. But then when you start walking through this stuff and developing your story, you start seeing colors. You start seeing shadows. You start seeing all this vivid stuff. You start seeing some action going on. You start seeing these things that are beautiful, because that's you. So once you develop and start creating, you can get a creative strategy. And that creative strategy allows you to imagine differently. See, because that was really your imagination, those projections of being feared of the future. So once you can imagine differently, then you can visualize differently. And then that's the thing, is you must deal to heal. Also, you can be real. So I hope that that's been helpful. I'll read one more thing, and then I will let you go, because your time is valuable, and I do appreciate your time. So on the quote, it says, "You cannot create a conscious relationship with someone who isn't committed to doing their work. But you can create a better relationship with yourself. And sometimes that looks like releasing yourself from the idea that you can change another person or convince them to grow. Choose yourself." This is by Sheliana Aliana. Sheliana Aliana. So I hope that this has all been helpful for you this week. And again, if there's any questions that you have me, or any suggestions, anything you would like me to talk to, you can put it in the comments below, or you can email me at stacyreinick@gmail.com. Or I'm on social media on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter as Stacy Renee, and it's up here on the board. Or on Instagram as Stacy Renee 8. So with all that being said, I wish you much peace and love, and I'm going to let you have your time back now. And I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday in the morning. Thank you so much for being with me. Peace.